Hello everyone, welcome to Logic Medicos. Today's interesting topic is auditory pathway. This is the pathway of hearing. It is a unique sensory pathway. This pathway consists of more than 3 sensory neurons and it begins from this part of the inner ear, which is called as a cochlea. This portion. Okay, so it's called as a cochlea. Within the cochlea, bony cochlea, there is a duct called as cochlear duct. Within the cochlear duct, there is a receptor for hearing which is made up of hair cells, the inner hair cells and the outer hair cells. These hair cells carry the information to the first order neuron. Where is the first order neuron present? It is present in the bipolar neuron of the cochlear nerve. You can see that here. This is the bipolar neuron. I'll show you that here. So this is the bipolar neuron here. It is carrying the information to the brainstem. So these first order neurons are the bipolar neurons of the spiral ganglia or the cochlear ganglia, which is located within the modulus of the cochlea. Of course, the peripheral process of this will go to the hair cells. The central process of this goes to the brainstem. So this is a bipolar neuron. So that is about the first order neuron. The second order neuron is present within the pons. So where is the pons? See, this structure is the pons. It has got two nucleus, one in the front and one behind. We call it as ventral and dorsal cochlear nucleus. This is the second order neuron. In addition to this, one more body is there which forms the second order neuron. It's called the trapezoid body, which is there in the midline part of the tegmentum of the pons. So the second order neuron receives the information from the bipolar neuron of the spiral ganglion. After receiving the information, the second order neuron, as you can see, forms the auditory tract, which is going upwards. Okay, this auditory tract will reach the level of midbrain, where few of the fibers will end up in inferior colliculus. This inferior colliculus is concerned with auditory reflex. What is this auditory reflex? If somebody calls you, you will respond to them immediately. If some honk of some vehicle is there, some horn is there, you will be able to respond immediately because of this inferior colliculus of the midbrain. It forms a separate tract called as Tectospinal Tract. Other than these, some of the fibers will also go towards something called superior olivary nucleus. The fibers beginning from the neurons beginning from here again ascends upwards, forming the auditory tract. The auditory tract can also be called as lateral leminiscus. That's the other name given for the auditory tract. Okay. Again, this auditory tract goes to the midbrain. Majority of the fibers end up in this MGB of thalamus. What is this MGB? Medial geniculate body of thalamus. So the neurons beginning from the medial geniculate body of thalamus go in the form of a radiation, like similar to a sun rays. It will go in the form of a radiation. We call it as auditory radiation. Auditory radiations. So these auditory radiation end up in this lobe of the brain. What is this lobe of the brain? This lower part of the lobe. So this lobe of the brain where auditory radiations are ending is called the temporal lobe of the brain. To be more specific, it reaches the superior temporal gyrus, this area. Superior temporal gyrus, this area it will end up. The upper portion of the temporal lobe. Superior temporal gyrus is the primary auditory cortex. Area number 41 and 42 according to Brodmann. So this superior temporal gyrus receives any kind of auditory information. Later it is transferred towards Wernicke's sensory area where it is processed and understood, comprehension of the spoken language. Ultimately it goes to the Wernicke's area here. Ultimately it goes to the Broca's motor speech area where the person responds by giving a speech. Okay, that is Broca's motor speech area, area number 44 and 45. For time being, in auditory pathway, to summarize, the first order neuron is a bipolar neuron of the spiral ganglia or the cochlear ganglia. The second order neuron is situated in the pons. They are the cochlear nucleus, ventral and dorsal cochlear nucleus. the cochlear nucleus and trapezoid body nucleus and superior olivary nucleus. All these are second order neuron. What was the first order neuron? Bipolar neurons of the cochlear ganglion. The third order neuron are present at the level of midbrain, the inferior colliculus, also the medial geniculate body. Medial geniculate body. Some authors believe that the superior olivary nucleus is third order neuron and medial geniculate body is the fourth order sensory neuron, from where the information reaches the cerebral cortex. To summarize, the auditory pathway beginning from the hair cells of the organ of Corti goes via the first order neuron, that is a spiral ganglion or the cochlear ganglion, enters the brainstem at the level of pons, where it reaches the ventral and dorsal cochlear nuclei along with the nuclei of the trapezoid body, and few fibers end up in the inferior colliculus for reflex pathway for auditory reflex. Auditory inputs, there will be a reflex pathway for auditory input, and that's by tectospinal tract. And few of the fibers end up in superior olivary nucleus. They form a tract called as auditory tract, also called lateral leminiscus, that ends up in the MGB of thalamus, which is the medial geniculate body of thalamus. From there, like the petals of the sunflower, it will radiate towards the, from the bottom of the brainstem, it will radiate towards the cerebral cortex, mainly the temporal lobe, especially the temporal lobe, superior temporal gyrus, area number 41 and 42, Brodmann's functional area. It's a primary auditory cortex where it receives the auditory input. Thank you for watching and learning from Logic Medico. Hope you benefit from this video. Kindly press the thumbs up icon and share this video with your other friends. Thank you. Bye.